This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, the clouds are beginning to move on and the sun is rising to start a new day in Africa. And, well, that means a new search for the animals that we call this place home and that we call home. We're going to be out looking for all kinds of things this morning. Hopefully, we're going to be finding signs of our spotty cats. Towards the east, we're going to go see if there's Klalamba or Tandi somewhere around this general vicinity after last night and see what they got up to. It promises to be another cracking day on this, your very own live safari in Africa. Good morning, everybody, and like I said, welcome to a start of the day in Africa. As you can see, the sun is just starting to come up. The clouds have left us and means no more rain, which is a wonderful thought, given yesterday's rather grim weather. It's going to be nice to be dry today and not have as much wind. It looks like it's going to be the most beautiful morning, and the dawn chorus already has been quite something. So promises a lot this morning. I suspect that we're going to have a lot of animals moving around, hopefully marking territories after the rain, which will be really good. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Gert this morning, and it is a warm welcome to all of you. Remember, we are coming to you live from the African wilderness, which means we would like to hear from all of you, and you can get hold of us and ask us questions, and if you have any comments, you can use hashtag WildEarth. Remember also that you can become part of the family and join the Wild Earth Explorers. Just head to wildearth.tv/explorers, and all the information is there as to how you can become part of the greater Wild Earth family. Right, now, like I said earlier, we're going to be searching for spots, nothing new in that, if you know me. So we're going to try and see if we can find maybe Sibui and the cubs down in the south, otherwise Klalamba, Tandi's cub. There's a lot of different options all in the south and the east. And so that's where we're going to kind of focus our attentions. There was also 2 packs of dogs fighting last night on Cheetah Plains, and they came towards that area, so lots of promise in the southeast this morning. In the meantime, though, it sounds like Trish has made her way towards the hyena den, and I'm sure she was filled with promise of potentially seeing a new little one.
Oh, I really am. We've already gone off to a good start. June is here. She was just a little bit further away from the den, and that's interesting because then we get to talk a little bit about dynamics. My name is Trishal, and I've got Marcel on camera with me this morning on Juma Game Reserve. And here at the den, I would like to introduce you to who we have. We have Swazi, who is sniffing about Koki and her cub that is there. Exactly. Now, June was, like I said, slightly away from the den when we arrived. So we're going to keep it quite quiet and just make sure that everyone feels comfortable. Because this is going to be a really, really interesting. What we're going to see is how June interacts with Koki. We know that June came here to the den last night with that little cub, accompanied by Swazi. And now Swazi has been trying to play with Koki's little cub, albeit a little rough. And Koki was trying to defend the cub a lot, but she also looked very nervous. So we're going to watch very carefully. I can also see, I've also seen ribbons 2 and hearts 2. after watching the footage from the dam cam... Sorry, guys. Game drive radio blaring. When we saw the footage last night, that cub does not look very young that June was holding in her mouth. I remember when we were here, it was quite dark, so it was more important for me to have a look at the footage to gauge the age, and that cub looked at least about a month old to me. I remember Corky carrying her cub in her mouth when it was about that age. It's still all black, but it's not tiny, tiny. Off Swazi goes. Noodles, you'd like to know what the success rate for hyena cubs to make it to adulthood is. It's about the same as it is with other predators, 40 to 60%. Generally, we think that half are likely to survive. Okay. Oh, so many interesting things can happen today. I really want to see what June's interaction with Corky will be like, because Corky has been so submissive. How clearly they've all heard something. If only our ears could pick that up too. Oh no, Cookie. Don't go. If she goes, we'll have to go. I can still see her. Wolfie girl, you'd like to know how many cubs hyenas have at a time? It's usually 2. But 1 is also fairly common. 3 is very, very, very rare. I can hear it. I need to see where they've gone, because now they're out of my sight, and if they're out of my sight, that's no good. Because we don't want to be here when the adults are not, especially with the little cub. Okay, she's still in sight. Just readjust. This is where June... Oh, she's here. Okay, June is here. Let's just have a quick look at her through the gap there. You can see she's sitting quite far from the den, which is interesting. Even though her cub is in the den. Because of the bushiness of this den, it's very difficult to see a lot where you park. So if you don't mind, I'm going to actually park a little bit further away from the den than we usually do. And that way we might be able to see more. I wonder if she may wait until Corky's left. Which would be interesting. Like I said, Corky's been submissive. For me, June was the lowest, or currently is the lowest ranking member. But let's just see. We'll only be able to know once we see. That is, I've been hit by spider webs a couple times today. One went like that over my mouth. Okay, let's do this. And we can see Corky there. If the cubs come out of either side, we'll be able to see. And I can see the general area where June was in. So, good spot. And then we won't have to move around too. But like I said, it's a little bit further away than we're used to. It's going to be so interesting. I can't wait. Cannot wait at all. Leopard lover, you wanted to know how old June is. June was first seen in 2015. She's not a very old girl. Compare that to Corky, who was born in 2009. The other mum here, Hart, who isn't here at the moment, she was also born in 2015. Like June, or at least first seen in 2015. Maybe I can roll back so we can just get them in frame properly. There we go. I think it'll be a patience game today, because June may be very, very cautious about bringing her cub out to suckle. She might not even bring it out. She might just plonk herself into the hole like she did last night, with all the necessary milking equipment directed into the den. Oh, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm listening for little squitterings from the den, which are very, very, very audible when a cub is inside the den. Also, she can only carry one cub at a time. Karen, you'd like to know why hyenas choose termite mounds for their dens? It's because it's easy and convenient, because they don't always choose termite mounds. A den could be a hole in the ground. But termite mounds are very, very easy, and most of the work is done for them. It's got many tunnels, easily accessible. Corky's little one came bounding to the den entrance like it was so curious. What's in there? The two entrances are connected because we've seen them go in one, out the other. So we've spoken about this, that they used disused aardvark burrows or warthog burrows, and then they just adjust it and dig a little bit to suit their needs. Remember, they've got blunt claws, not like the claws of cats, sharpened. They've got stout, blunt claws with heavy paws, so they can dig quite well. And it's just wonderful if you don't have to dig out the whole thing. That's why termite mounds are so convenient. So in terms of the adult females in this clan, I almost had a little sound emanating from the den. I'm sure if we sit here and be patient, we will be lucky. Concerning the rankings of the adult females in the Juma clan at the moment, Ribbon obviously being the matriarch, and Tima, her eldest or only daughter, underneath her. Then I would think Heart, Corky, and June. But I think Corky and June, remember, we haven't spent a lot of time with June since the whole takeover. So Corky and June is going to be a very interesting interaction. And we might just see that today and know where they slot in the complex hierarchy of hyenas. Clown Sharon, you would like to know if hyenas have a breeding season? Hope I heard that correctly. I thought you said grieving season. I was about to say, not generally, they don't grieve for a particular season. Breeding season? No, there's no breeding season. Hyenas are very special, as you know. So, like most predators, they will fall pregnant when they are in estrus. And that's when they'll seek out to mate, and that goes in a very, very, very loose cycle. But it's not a particular season. Generally, like with all animals, they have chemical processes that will kick in so that the end of their gestation period lies in the wet season, because that means an abundance of prey, and for herbivores, an abundance of vegetation. But it doesn't always have to be that way, because it really depends on when you fall pregnant, when you have mating opportunities. And also, cubs will not survive. A lot of them don't survive, so you've got to basically keep on trying. And hyenas can be very, very particular about who they mate with, and they're completely in charge, females, with any kind of sexual behavior, because they actually have to invert their pseudopenis for a male to be able to mate with them. And if they don't do that, they can't be mated with. So they're very much in control. Apart from that, the canal through which they give birth, mate, as well as urinate, is the same canal. We call that a urogenital canal, which, like you can imagine, would mean that if they do mate, and for whatever reason, however they'd know, I wouldn't know, they could urinate, and a lot of that genetic material can be lost. So they're very much in charge, the females, when it comes to mating. Righty. Usually people are not too interested in hyena den, but I'm going to call it in. Let them know. Station Samisikaya is active. At the moment, the cubs all have a good ranking. They all rank above the males, regardless of whether it's a male cub. But what I find very interesting is how some of the adults behave with ribbons to cubs that are both male, but are also the matriarch's cubs, so they're very high ranking, regardless of the fact that they're male, and how Corky and Hart, they take chances with those cubs sometimes. They get quite irritated with them. But definitely not when Ribbon is around. Hart's cubs were being quite dominant over Corky recently as well. You must remember that cubs inherit their mother's rank. So if Hart is higher ranking than Corky, which I think she is, then they would be able to assert themselves over Corky. I've definitely got my patience pants on to sit it out. It's also going to be a very interesting day at the den. Not just from the perspective of, oh, we want to see this little cub. So does everybody. What about the rest of the clan? Doesn't the rest of the clan want to come through too? With lots of whooping last night. And I wonder who else will come through that we can say hi to at the den. So I think that when Corky's cub arrived at the den, it was very, very, very young. Ian, you'd like to know which animal is the closest relative to hyenas? Hyenas and civets are quite closely related. In fact, they shared a common ancestor. And from the hyena day, that being striped hyenas, spotted hyenas, brown hyenas, and aardwolf, spotted hyenas are the most recent divergence. That's why they have their own special genus of crocuta. June is waiting for the moment that I'm going to be here. So what I was saying to you is that I think Corky brought her cub to this den when it was very, very young. Remember how tiny it was? And we were all a little bit concerned about it. But that's because we're used to seeing cubs when they're about a month old. But spotted hyenas are known to bring very, very young cubs to a communal den, even a week old. But that's an interesting act that she's done, because she would not feel comfortable to bring her very young cub to the den if she didn't have a good relationship with the matriarch. And I say relationship, when I say relationship, I mean they have a certain bonds in the sense of friendships. I mean, there's no really other way to say it. Some hyenas get along better with other ones, and they maintain these relationships so that they have backup, and that they have kind of like a second in command, or somebody that they know that will have their back if something happens. For Corky, I thought Pretty was that hyena for her in the past. With the ribbon at the moment, I would think Heart is, but I don't feel like they have a very dependent relationship. You used to see Corky and Pretty together all the time. All the time. Ribbon's alliance is probably mostly to her daughter and Tima, as opposed to any of the other hyenas. But Corky obviously felt a strong enough alliance to and with Ribbon to bring her cub to the den very early. So early that I think we misjudged her age, because we saw Corky's little one before we had seen Heart's. So we assumed that it was older than Heart's for those first few weeks, but clearly it's not. I say Hearts look about 6 to 5 months old. Corky's about 5. And that 1 month makes a difference, because they do grow very, very quickly. All right, well, now I'm going to send you over to Tristan, who's got something very special for you. I'm sure you're all going to love it.
Well, something that certainly riles up hyenas is wild dogs, which is what we were hoping we'd kind of find on this side. It's exactly kind of where we left Kalamba yesterday, or yesterday evening, should I say. Now, it's... Now, this particular pack, I'm not 100% sure which pack it is at this stage. I think it's the Sands pack. I just want to do a proper count quickly. Like I said, the two packs converged yesterday evening. I think it was the Pungwe pack and these guys. We know that one of the packs obviously lost a member from Lions, but I think this is the Sands pack. I don't see any sign of a collared dog anywhere, and I'm looking for one specific male that's in this pack. He's got like a kind of half circle black mark on his back, which is a dog that I've actually personally dealt with from collaring and uncollaring the dog, and I think he's here. Now you'll see that they're a little bit aware of what's going on, and that's because there's a whole bunch of hyenas that are milling around behind them. There's 3 different hyenas that were following them, and they're all kind of coming up from the back, and that's why the dogs are all facing that way with their ears up and out, and kind of checking them and making sure that they don't come and cause too much trouble. Now, the dogs haven't, by the looks of things, eaten too much yet. Where they are now, though, is not the greatest place for finding huge amounts of food. If they travel north a little bit, then it gets better. As they approach the kind of fire breaks, then you start to see a lot more impalas up and end. But it looks like they're now going to get going. You can see all the adults in front. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 adults. And then puppies, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think. Actually, 8 adults and 6 puppies. I'm pretty sure it's the Sands pack that we have here. But it'll be interesting to know where the Pungwe pack went, if the two packs did collide yesterday, where kind of everybody ended up deciding to go. But isn't that cool, just watching all those little whitetails bouncing along the road? That's very, very cool. I was hoping we'd get these guys this morning, so I'm super excited that we have managed to find them, and that, well, looks like they're still hungry, so that's generally a good thing for us. It means that the hunting is going to be a lot more prominent than it has been, well, the times that I've spent with them over the course of the last few days. I had them in the morning, they'd already eaten, and then again in the afternoon they'd eaten as well, so it'll be nice to kind of catch up with them and see how the hunting goes this morning. Like I said, this area here is not flush with impalas. You've got to go a little bit further north before you get a lot of them up that side. Megan, you say they're so beautiful. Indeed they are. Particularly when you see them far away like this, and when they've got all these little white tails that are bouncing along the road. They do look very, very good. They've got beautiful color on them as well. I always enjoy dogs for that reason. I like their colors. A lot of people find them ugly. I find them pretty good. I like their kind of tones, and I think there's an element of kind of exoticness to them, should we put it that way. I'm just going off-road because I'm going to allow the other cars a chance to see things, so we don't have to all drive behind each other without being able to see one another. This way we can kind of all get a view of the dogs as we go along. The idea is obviously to let everybody be able to see evenly across the area, and so if we kind of mill about on this side, we'll be able to kind of spend time with them and not have to block anyone else's view. But that's cool, isn't it? It's a beautiful road to have them on because you've got such a wide sort of space and a big fire break on either side. It gives you a really nice view of the entire pack as they're going along. I'm not sure where the hyenas have gone. They're somewhere also around. I know there's one more dog that's going to join from the right. It should pop out of the bush fairly shortly, and that will then kind of complete the pack. The hyenas are clever, though. They know, don't get too close to the dogs now. Just sit back and then wait and just follow them, and eventually the dogs will tear after something, and either they're going to grab it and the hyenas can rob it, or the animal will run into the hyenas and they can grab it themselves. All right, let's catch up with them because they're quite far down the road again. We've got, obviously, to try and let everybody have a decent view as possible. Luckily, the guys are being very accommodating of us today, and allowing us to kind of go ahead, which is always very pleasant of them. Alright, so we're heading slowly north. We're heading in the right direction of where we often find a lot of impala hanging around, and so I'm going to keep up with these guys. Let's see where they go and what they get up to.
We're going to sit and listen to the wonderful sounds of the bush for a little bit. Hopefully we'll hear some squittering as the sun peeks out and illuminates our wonderful hyenas. Just the sound of some lovely birds. No luck with squittering just yet. But of course, patience pants are needed here at the den today, and I'm going to stick around.
Well, I'm trying to keep up with these dogs. They're all over the place this morning, as is pretty typical for wild dogs, running up and down and side to side and generally just kind of on the search. They're not just running along and kind of lying down and marking. They're on a lookout for any potential prey animals. So every time there's anything that potentially moves, you find the pack runs in that direction, and it's fascinating watching these little puppies learning from the adults. Every time the adults change direction, the puppies change direction, and they're learning every day at the moment. So the more that they follow the pack, the more they're becoming fully fledged members. At their age, they're still a little bit small to be participating in a lot of the hunts. They won't have the power to bring down larger prey animals like fully grown male impalas or kudu or wildebeest or other things that these guys go after, but they're learning all the time, and they're seeing how to run, how to chase, where to grab, and how that all affects their ability to be successful. But I'm pretty sure it's a Sands pack. Looks very much like all of them. I don't see any of the collared dogs here, so it wouldn't be the Pungwe pack, and I don't see the alpha female from the Pungwe pack either. Ralph, dogs are not territorial. They are what we call, they have home ranges. So they mark a territory in a respect of when they're denning particularly, but they really have a home range more than anything else, and that's because they need to follow food availability. Wait, this one's running after something on this side. I don't know if they've caught something, but there's a dog that's tearing off in this direction. I'm just trying to see what it's chasing. These are all the puppies this side, the adults all this way. So I just want to see if I can see where it went. Often if you just sit still with dogs, when they tear after something, they go one way, and then the animal that they're chasing might come back towards you, and they all come. And if they are successful, what you'll hear is a bit of a commotion, and all these puppies will start running in that direction. So sometimes it's better just to sit still and wait and just see if something comes popping out of the bush here being chased by a whole pack of dogs. But they were all running as fast as they could that direction to the east. I'm just seeing the puppies behind us. I'm watching them. They're all kind of looking our way. Yeah, they come. Look, they're going to come from behind us. They're all trotting. So I don't know whether they heard something from the adults. Let me go back a little bit. I think they're just playing. They're confused now. They don't know where all the adults have gone. The adults are all to our right-hand side, but you can see, look, the little puppies are wondering, hang on a second, where did everybody go? They were all here 5 seconds ago. Don't worry, puppies, we often feel the same with you lot, where we sit still and then all of a sudden you guys disappear on us. It's the same confused look that these guys have is what we have when we sometimes follow wild dogs. They're fighting with the hyena, that's what they're doing. You can hear a hyena behind us. No, none, because dogs are... So none is the answer. These guys are petrified of lions, and lions are just so much bigger and stronger that they typically will absolutely hammer wild dogs. So generally dogs are very, very scared. Don't know if you can hear. It's a cacophony of dogs calling all around us at the moment. The puppies are confused. You can see this adult. Here comes another adult here. It's responding to the call. There we go. They're running into the other side. All right, let's try and keep up with them. It's going to be very, very tricky where they're going. This is not easy terrain that they're heading into at all. So I think the best plan is to try... there come the hyenas, you see? They were fighting with the hyenas. Look, here they all are. So these hyenas probably think to themselves, free meal somewhere. I want to try get around because with the calling and the way these hyenas are running, maybe there's a kill. You can just see how many of them are coming out at the moment. Okay, guys, I want to try get past you. Oh, these dogs is going to be a colossal fight. There's 5 hyenas and 8 wild dog adults. It's pretty even odds. The hyenas will probably steal the kill though if they do have it. So we're just going to try and get round. Luckily, the road bends a little bit here. It kind of goes up, so we should cut off the dogs and the hyenas on the same side. This is where it's nice to have Rusty, because Rusty has a serious amount of power to get around. For those of you who don't know who Rusty is, Rusty's the car. This car is definitely not slow, that's for sure, so makes following dogs easier, that's for sure. Alright, so somewhere in here is where these dogs are. I'm actually going to go towards Buffelshoek Dam because I suspect that they're going to come out somewhere there. There they are, right in front of us, running. So sometimes you've got to just trust your gut a little bit. I don't know what they're running after, but they're going after something. Sorry. Oh, this is just not an easy place to follow dogs, that's for sure. You can hear them calling in front here, so I'm just trying to catch up. I can just see their tails in front of me, still going very quickly. Got to be careful of our antenna as we go through there. The problem is every time you slow down, you lose meters on these guys. In fact, we've already lost visual of them now. I can't see them anymore. Sorry, what's that, Gert? One is running behind us, Gert says, which is good news. Means we're still within touch of them. Let's keep going in the direction that I think they're heading, which is towards Buffelshoek Dam. I wonder if they haven't chased something. Oh, there's something in front of us that's happening. Hold on. They're in front of us here. You know what? Let's just get to the road. The road's going to be easier to follow. Not easy driving this while trying to see where they're going and listen and talk to you guys. So sorry if I'm not talking as much. There they're going in front of us. So often they'll chase animals towards water holes and the animals actually go into the water hole itself. Everything looks quite calm at Buffelshoek Dam. I just saw one cross the road in front of us. Let's just check if they're not on the other side there. Saddle-billed stork, yellow-billed stork. No wild dogs. Okay. Let's just turn around. Complete chaos, as is generally the case with dogs. Gert and I saw one run across this road heading kind of south again, but luckily they're calling, which calling generally means that we can kind of find them again when they call like this. I think the whole pack is separated at the moment, and so that's why you're hearing a lot of calling as they're trying to keep contact with one another. Alright, so it sounds like some of them are to the north. Obviously trying to... Alright, I'm going to try and find these guys again, see if we can get a view. In the meantime though, let's send you back across to Trishala with hyenas.
Corky and little Corky have moved close to the den, which makes it easier for us to see. But June has moved away. So June came from her spot she was sitting far off from the den at. She walked through, went to Corky. They had a small interaction. Corky was just a little bit submissive, not hugely so. She had that awkward, nervous smile. You know, that one that's usually a submissive hyena that does that. But she was not giggling, so it was a very mild interaction. And June went to her, sniffed her. And the usual spots for a hyena, always sniffing the genitals. And the cub as well. And then she moved off. So now we have Corky and her little one suckling in this good prime position outside the den. I can't see if June has moved totally far away and completely away from the den, or she's just sat down behind a bush or something. I hope that that's the case, because that means that we have a likelihood that she'll come back to show us the cub sometime today, or this morning at least. Cooking fat, you'd like to know if we know the gender of the cub? No, we don't. We haven't seen it on camera yet. We've only seen it, well, the best view we had of it was in the dam cam, and yesterday when we arrived at the den, we just saw June put it into the den. Not even, it was also dark. So we just had her head with something in her mouth and in the den. So we have not had a good look at the cub at all. At all. So there's no sex of the cub yet. And it's only when we really, get a good view and see how old the cub is that we'll be able to determine that, because also when they're very, very young, it's a difficult thing to determine. You can still obviously have a look though. There's so many spider webs all over the place. It makes me so happy. They're glistening everywhere. It's warming up already and quite intensely. And when it's hot, the hyena is not very active, so we'll try to stick around for as long as we can, and as long as Corky does. Corky almost ruined this morning, walking away. Of course, I don't mean that Corky, but we arrived here and then you walked but she just sat close by, so I forgive her. I'd love to know which hyenas are with Tristan and those wild dogs. Quite cool if we could see a good number of the clan today. Those 5 with Tristan, and then here we had all the cubs, plus Swazi, Corky, and June. I don't see her at all in the distance. This afternoon is also a good opportunity. Maybe she'll feel safer. I think she'll feel safer when no one else is around, no other hyenas. Because remember, we didn't see Corky suckling her little one for long, long periods. And then when she would, it would usually be Corky on her own here. It's just a waiting game. I wonder if you can see that little shimmeriness just now. That's because there's a spider web between us and Corky at the moment. Karen, you'd like to know what animals the hyenas need to be aware of at the den? Any predator, especially lions, because they will, if they could smell the cub as they, or the den site, because it'll smell very hyena-y. Many youngsters together in there, lots of activity of hyenas around, urinating, defecating, all of that, scent marking. If they smell that, they will direct their attention towards the den and they will look for cubs and hyenas that are around. It's the same for any predator. When they have youngsters, they're vulnerable, and the smell of a lot of concentrated activity brings attention to themselves. Just like with Shududu and her cub. When June killed it. It's eliminating competition. Predators do it all the time, and especially for young, because they're easy and vulnerable. If wild dogs came through, they'd happily take a cub too. Same for a leopard. Oh, it's so lovely and warm now. I can hear green wood hoopers. I can hear the beeping of my game drive radio. I can hear some sticklers. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous morning. Now I just need to hear the sawing of a leopard close by. Or alarm calls. Oh, how I love sitting at the den and waiting for that. Well, not waiting, but you hear it, and it's such a perfect position to hear all these things. There's such excitement in the air. Leah, you'd like to know if hyenas are aggressive with other animals? I think that's a really important question because a lot of their reputation comes from their behavior. They have this reputation of being these cowards that will kind of just be cowards, want to steal something and then cower away, and that comes from their behavior. So they're not aggressive towards other animals, but they will harass other animals, and then as soon as the other animal turns against them, then they run away. Then they'll harass, then they'll run away, then they'll harass, and they'll run away. So it looks like they're being cowards. Of course they're not being cowards, but they're not showing overt aggression. Not this aggressive confidence. Instead, they have this kind of don't care attitude. And they do that because they know they're strong and their lifestyle has revolved part of the time around harassing other predators, where for other predators, portion of their lifestyle doesn't revolve around that. I can hear wild dogs in the distance. I wonder how far away Tristan is from here, but there have been 2 packs that have been around this area. Can you hear that? That's to the east, and then I'm hearing a response in the west. Very cool. All right, Taylor's got some dung beetles. Let's go and have a look at her dung beetles, and I think I might go and investigate if there are any wild dogs here at Treehouse Dam. Never mind, apparently you're not going to Taylor. You're staying here with me. I'm just going to listen out once more. That calling is getting very, very close. All right, let's take a quick drive to Treehouse. FC, you'll need to tell me where Tristan is if you can. Interesting. Okay, so Tristan is near Buffelshoek Dam. This wild dog's calling is near here in the southwest. Yet again, like Spider-Man just went whole face. I should drive like this. Sorry, little box spider, was that you? Driving like this. Just trying to listen for the... That was a lovely Laveland's cuckoo that just... Will I not learn? Just flew past us. Another spider web in the face. All in a day's work. I can also tell you that this is one of my favorite things about safari. Is when we can hear something and then we can go searching together. I'm gonna sit and listen now. Let's go with gut. As you know, wild dogs move very, very, very quickly. Stations I've got audio for wild dogs in the south. I'm following up. It's coming from the southeast and then a response in the southwest. It'd be very, very lucky if we get to see a second pack of dogs. Or perhaps it's the same pack that has split.
Apologies, we really...
Okay, I'm now at the southern boundary. It sounded like it was coming from the southern boundary, so I'm either going to see tracks or I'm going to see dogs. But for now, I'm going to send you over to Taylor, one of my favorite animals.
It's my favorite animal too. We have stumbled across some elephants here this morning. And we've just got a few bulls in front of us, but there is a breeding herd of elephants that are slowly moving towards the north. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi, as usual, and we are here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Bulili Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger National Park. But I'm hoping that we do get a glimpse of some of these younger elephants, but they're not really cooperating with us today. So for now, we'll enjoy the company of the bulls that are trailing this herd. Hello. I'm just munching on some grass. Seb and I have actually had an interesting morning. It's consisted of us moving multiple branches out of the road. And actually, when I say branches, I mean half trees that the elephants had pushed over and caused exceptional roadblocks. I wonder if it was this herd or if it was perhaps just some bigger bulls. And, of course, a classic head shake from a young Ellie bull. Hello, boy. Yeah, we're talking about you. Very, very typical behavior. from the youngsters, often getting quite frustrated with just everything, including the cars. Not that we're doing anything particularly wrong. We're parked at a nice distance away. But this is one of the naughtier elephants that we actually see in camp quite often. I just recognized him by the little notch that he had in his tusk. Oh, and there's another bull that was actually also coming straight towards him. So perhaps they've been on and off having a bit of a tussle. Now, we've got lots of Ellies now coming around, not the ones that I want to see though. Linda, you've inquired about the weight of an elephant. So females obviously don't get, not obviously, because in some mammal species the females are or can be larger. But in the case of elephants, it's the males that get nice and big. Here comes a much taller bull than the two that we were looking at. And they can weigh up to anywhere between 5 and 6 tons. Would be the average weight of a big elephant bull. And then the cows, slightly smaller, around 4.5 tons or so. So that's a lot of kilograms. Look at those toes, though. Somebody needs to go for a pedicure. It always amazes me how out in the wild, animals' toenails, not that all of them have typical toenails like an elephant has, are always filed down so nicely. And if you look at zebra and things like that, if you know anything about horses, you know you've got to get the farrier in all the time. But out here, there's no need for that. So he actually doesn't need to go for a pedicure. So you can see he's come on in, he's throwing his weight around from the get-go, just coming in and greeting all the other bulls. You can see he's much taller, he's filled out quite a bit, whereas the other bulls have got really long legs, they're kind of out of proportion. He's still not a massive, fully grown bull, though. He's still got a lot of growing to do. Bit of a little leg shake there. Perhaps he's going to do the hokey pokey for us now. I have no doubt that he'll probably come over here and cause some trouble. Hello, big boy. Yes. There's another elephant off to the right-hand side of the screen, which you can see he's smelling right now. Hello, boy. I'm just going to watch him. No trouble today, please, sir. I know he's actually quite nice. Zakele, yes, elephants essentially do walk on their tippy toes. So if you actually look at an X-ray of an elephant, you'll notice that they don't walk flat-footed like we do. They're not sort of plantigrade. Hello, who have we got here? Another elephant. Hello, boy. That's too close. Don't come close. Cheeky bull, just shuffling. So here's the other bull that the older one was smelling. Oi! Yes, you just carry on. Sorry, Ezekiel, I'll get to you right in a minute. So essentially, with elephants, you'll see that they don't walk flat-footed like you and I walk flat-footed. They are on their tippy toes, and the heel of their foot is actually angled. It's quite difficult to describe, but if you were to draw a horizontal line from the toes to the back of their foot, and then if you extend it diagonally up, that's essentially how the foot is shaped, if that is making any sense. I don't know if I have a pen on me that I could maybe draw it for you. While you look at the wonderful elephants, I'll try and get a picture. You need to find something to write on, because I don't actually have my notebook here. Oh, I have a vehicle checklist, and I can draw something for you very quickly in the back over here. So while you do that, essentially just to give you an idea, so we as humans, we walk on the length of our foot. An elephant's foot kind of does that, if that makes any sense. So the heel is not down over here, the heel is actually slightly higher up, and this section over here is a spongy sort of tissue. It's quite fatty, and you probably heard us talking about how elephants will communicate with one another, and in here is sort of, if you will, sensory, I don't know what word I'm trying to find now, but they can pick up the vibrations through the ground and in here and understand what other elephants are saying, because elephants communicate mainly through infrasounds, obviously body language and other things. Look at this bull now. But yes, but that little part of the foot just sort of below the heel is actually very important. It's also why elephants walk so quietly. So when they step on a stick, it doesn't necessarily snap. So he's quite boisterous. Now, that behavior that you see when they go down on their knees is not normally a good sign. He's not facing us and doing it, though. I think he's just slightly frustrated and, like I said, just throwing his weight around with the other Ellie bulls. As you can see, they're all moving off in the opposite direction of the breeding herd. They'll probably stick together for the day, have a few chats. This one, maybe not. He's a bit young. He's much younger than the other elephant bulls that we were looking at, probably by a good 5 or 6 years. So perhaps he is still a part of this breeding herd. In bed, my goodness, I've got so many favorite elephant sightings. It's difficult to name one of them. However, for some bizarre reason, I seem to always run into a bit of trouble with young elephant cows. So teenage cows don't seem to enjoy my company, and they tend to throw sticks at me and mud and all sorts of random things, which is quite comical if you think about it. So any one of those sightings. And then there's an elephant that we see occasionally. Her name, well, I've dubbed her Susan. It's her unofficial official name, and she's quite naughty, and I enjoy her company too. Look here. Excuse me, so he's trying to intimidate us right now at the moment, but he's very brave. He's standing behind a whole bunch of sickle bush. So he's also on slightly higher ground, so, you know, he feels like a big boy now. You can see how he flared his ears out and he raised his head. Again, not anything serious. He really is he's just trying to prove to us who's boss. But I'm not going to respond to him at all. I'm not going to let him have a reaction out of us. Sure, other favorite elephant sightings. I honestly, any sighting at Ndlovu Dam where they're swimming and playing around in mud is always quite spectacular. The best elephant sightings I reckon I've had are here at Pridelands. Just every single day, really amazing interactions with them. So I just need to reposition very quickly. I don't know, the herd's not coming out behind us, unfortunately. It's moving through this block and there aren't really any roads that run in that direction. There's some tiny little ones here, but it's just, there's so much sickle bush, I don't think that we're really going to get a view. Another animal that we are going to bump into, it's inevitable, is a herd of buffalo. They were sleeping not too far away. There's a little, it's too thick, I don't know if we can see that little Ellie. We'll say hello to this elephant bull. Hello, boy. You can see he's stopped feeding now. Or he did for a moment. He's looking at us. Super important to be able to interpret elephant behavior out of all the animals. It's the one that we try and spend, or at least I try and spend a lot of time with when I have students. It's good that they get some practice with these cheeky elephant bulls, because it's a very intimidating feeling to have a large mammal like this charge out in front of you and flap their ears and, you know, try and stand and tower over you while you're in the vehicle. And so it's good to get practice, I think, before you start driving guests around, so you understand how to handle these situations. And we had some really interesting encounters the last little while I was training. And it was so nice to see how nervous everyone was in the beginning, but the nice part was to see how they improved and became a lot more confident with the elephants and, you know, not wanting to jump to start the car and drive away all the time. Because we know with these young elephant bulls, of course, every situation needs to be handled according to what's going on. So it could be different every single time. There's no set in stone rules. But it was nice to see how they started understanding that you could literally just use your voice to calm a situation down, especially with these animals. You can see, he's a funny boy. So this is still that older fella that came in, greeting another young bull that's come over to also say hello to him, so they always shove their trunks in each other's mouth. I'm so glad we as humans don't say hello like that, hey, Sebastian? It would be a bit strange, eh? Yeah, no. Especially now with the present pandemic that we're all facing. It's very unhygienic. Luckily, nothing that the elephants really have to worry about. I'm not actually sure if you're still with us. Okay. Lots of birds also very chatty this morning. I'm sure you can hear them, the ambient sound. They were very excited this morning. You can see also the elephant swatting his tail. Lots of bugs, but the bugs that were so prevalent as we were heading into work were all the alates, all the princes and princesses of the termites that were flying about. Not that they'd really bother the elephants. Those are just normal flies. I can actually smell the buffalo now. Yeah, they definitely can't be too far away. Okay, shall we try and find the buffalo, Seb?
Yeah.
I think so. Cool, what we're going to do now is we're going to travel along looking for the buffalo herd. Hopefully we'll find them just up ahead. If we go across to Dan, who's watching something much smaller than an elephant.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. What we have here is an alate eruption. So these are actually termites that are erupting, and it's due to the rain that we've had in the past couple of days and the fact that it's actually starting to warm up again. These alates will kind of fly up and try and find it to see if they can find a new area to reproduce. So yeah, I mean, it's quite an amazing little feat of nature. But good morning, everybody. I'm Dan. Welcome to And Beyond Ngala, and on the camera we got BK this morning. What we've been doing is trying to find lions this morning, and what we've done is come across this alate eruption. It's quite an amazing feat of nature, in fact. And as we spend a bit of time here, we might see incredible action from birds to hyenas and all sorts of animals that will be feeding on these alates. So they are incredibly rich in protein. Even for humans, we can potentially even eat them. And you'll see they are erupting in their thousands outside of these holes. And they're much, much, much bigger. You can actually see some of the normal termites crawling around the sand there. But the ones with the wings are what we call alates. And they are the reproductive stage of these termites. And during the summertime, after the rain and the heat, they then fly out in their thousands. They'll kind of join up together and try and start a new colony. It's something that we've been talking about birds for the past couple of days. I mean, I don't know if you can see it so clearly in the camera, but have a look how many there are, particularly when it gets closer to the sky. There are just thousands of them around. And birds, we've been talking about them for the past couple of days, have literally migrated from all over the world. And this is one of the major reasons that brings them here, is this incredible food source for them. I mean, the chances of even just a few of these alates making it to a mound and actually successfully reproducing is super, super small. And that's why there are, in fact, thousands and thousands of them coming out of this termite mound. These termites live in what we call a caste system. So they'll have certain roles that they are born into. These alates would have just hatched, essentially, and they are the kings and the queens of this colony. Then you'll have soldiers and workers, which are all designed to do one role, and that's look after the termite mound. So I'm going to really spend a bit of time here. It really is quite special, and see if anything interesting doesn't come and start feeding on these alates. I haven't seen too many birds around feeding on them, but this will attract all sorts of attention.
Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Moritz, and I come to you live every day from Tswalu, Kalahari here in South Africa. My favorite thing is probably the predators. And as you can see, we're looking at some of them right now. These are the kings of the Kalahari. Spending time with the cats, it's just a privilege. And I love their behavior, you know, the more that you look at them, just the power and the sheer beauty and elegance of them.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome back. We are still here with these alates, and it is amazing to watch, particularly as they start to fly up. You'll kind of see them get absolutely blown away by the wind. I think this eruption has just started as well, and one of my guesses to this is the fact that there are no birds around that are eating these alates. I'm surprised no hyenas. I mean, we've got an incredibly high population of hyenas in which they will often also come here and feed on these alates. And being super high in protein, it'll be a really good food source, although if they've got impala lambs around, they might not need to come and feed off of these alates. Some people might be a bit freaked out by all of these little things crawling out of the ground. But they are magnificent and quite special, and it only happens at this time of the year. With the heat that's coming today, potentially in the rain that we've had in the past couple of days, all these eggs have hatched. And they'll kind of get taken by the wind to wherever they go. And even if a handful of them make it to creating a new colony, it'll be a success for this colony. It's not the end of this colony as well. I mean, this termite mound may spend the next many, many, many years growing and developing and producing alates like this when the rain and the heat does come. Look at those smaller ones. I mean, they're all there. They're kind of making sure that the path for the winged alates is clear, and they'll actually create these little mounds. Can you see that it's like a mound above the ground? And they'll do that and they'll create this, and it can actually even take centuries to create these mounds. And these ones are looking pretty new, they're quite small. But they'll go and they'll feed on the decaying wood, and they'll eat it, but they're not very good at digesting the whole wood. They'll use the enzymes on the inside of this mound to actually digest it further. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, and I'm going to send you over to Taylor for the meantime.
Well, we've gone from having cheeky elephant bulls trying to intimidate us to, well, a much younger and smaller elephant who's probably going to become a lot braver now that he's got his buddy to join in on the fun. But here we go. Oh, the terrible three. Oh, my goodness. This could be rather entertaining. Of course, these young elephants, they watch the older ones play and push and shove one another around. And of course, just like children, they have a lot of energy and need to get rid of it too. So you'll normally see them playing with elephants of their own age, but sometimes they are brave enough to try and take on the cars. This, of course, normally involves us erupting in laughter afterwards, which I don't think that the little elephants appreciate. Maybe that's why the bulls end up the way they do. They've got a grudge of us laughing at them when they tried so hard to be big and strong. I'm of course joking. That's not the case at all. But they're very sweet. We also heard a sort of blood-curdling scream that came from an elephant just literally a moment ago, so someone is very unhappy. But I'm glad that the breeding herd have actually popped out onto the road, just giving us a quick glimpse. I don't think it's going to be very long before they all move off. I like that those three little bottoms, large, medium, and small, hey, all in a row. Mina Moo, hello to you. It's been a long time since I've had a chat. So thank you very much for your question. You've asked if elephants not can hear, obviously they can hear. I've forgotten the question. Right, goldfish memory came through. How was it worded? And Sebastian's also going, yeah, me too. I'm so sorry. Gwyn is going to have to give it to us again. Sometimes this happens where, the thought is in your head and then it goes. Yes, there we go, Mina Moon. Do elephants recognize the human voice? Let me just say it out loud before I forget it again. Sorry. Yes, they 100% do. There's studies going on at the moment that they're doing in East Africa, particularly Kenya. I read the gist of the article. But anyways, it involved the Maasai and another tribe of, hang on. Hello, girl. It's okay. So you can see that's an older cow. You just always have to watch them because sometimes they surprise you out of nowhere and put their heads down and come running, and that is not a fun time. Then I'll definitely be moving out of her way. So sorry, Minamu. Essentially what they were doing is they used two different tribes that have various relationships with elephants. One tribe, the Maasai people, don't typically have the nicest relationship with elephants. They're known to spear them because they'll come in and destroy crops. Remember, for example, in the Masai Mara and the Mara Triangle, you've got people living literally with the wildlife. They live on the fringes of these wilderness ecosystems, and there's obviously a lot of conflict between humans and animals, from predators and then of course to elephants coming in and wanting to eat the nice tasty crops, because why wouldn't you? But there's various ways that they're trying to of course solve this and keep the peace. But anyways, like I said, history has shown that they don't typically have the nicest relationship with elephants, and I think elephants have remembered this. And then I've forgotten the other tribe that have a much more peaceful relationship with elephants. And essentially what they did is they got both tribes, and they got a number of different people from these tribes to say the same phrase. They essentially suggested that it was something along the lines of, hey, look, there's the elephants. And when the Maasai said it, the elephants naturally went into a defensive mode. They sort of formed a protective circle around the young ones, heads up, ears flared, trunks up, smelling, trying to figure out where it's coming from. And then with the other tribes, they played the same call over and over, and they didn't really get a response. The elephants carried on as normal. So definitely, I think if animals have experienced the same kind of behavior, elephants are highly intelligent. We know this. And emotionally, their social society is quite complex. They have a very, very, very well-developed brain. So I think that if an animal like an elephant constantly has a bad experience with a certain thing, they will associate smells and sounds to that, and they'll remember. I mean, if an animal can remember where, during a drought, they've managed to find water 20 years ago, and they'll go back and check that same spot, I can't imagine that they wouldn't be able to remember the sounds of our voices. So I think if you are spending a lot of time with elephants, and it's the same elephant or elephants over and over, I definitely think that they do get to know you. That's my personal opinion. I've had some interesting encounters that where science is now starting to show this. They're starting to prove and test all of these theories, especially with an elephant called Daryl. You used to see him down in the Sabi Sand. Again, it's not an official name. When you start to see the same animals over and over, somebody will give them a name and then it ends up sticking. And I used to have the most amazing sightings with him. I can't move now, because you can see that the big bull that we saw earlier has now come up to that cow. So there's an interaction happening there where he was greeting her. She's greeting him back, which is nice. And just enjoying one another's company. think he's come through to just see if there are any females and estrus. Now, Ian, you've asked about elephants and if they have any predators. The elephants do have predators. Unfortunately, we as humans are right on top of the list. Again, I apologize for the view. If I start the car, I'm going to provoke this elephant car, so I'd rather not. We'll just sit here like this and enjoy this abstract view. So humans, unfortunately, are the worst because we poach them for their ivory, we poach them for their meat. My goodness, pretty much every body part of an elephant is used for something. I'm sure there'll be some traditions, cultural traditions, and superstitions around elephants too. And the next thing that is a problem for elephants is lions, big prides of lions that will target individuals that have been separated from the herd, or young elephant bulls that have gone more nomadic, not spending times with the breeding herds. They'll target them, so that can be a huge problem. There's a very famous pride of lions in Hwange National Park in Zimbabwe that they typically do this. They're an exceptionally large pride. I can imagine it's not an easy thing. Even something like a crocodile, hey? I know we don't really think about it, but crocodiles, in my opinion, really are the apex predators. They've been around for such a long time. They remain unchanged, and they will literally eat anything and everything. And I've personally seen it firsthand in the Lower Zambezi National Park, where there were elephants crossing the Zambezi River, as they do every single day, all day, and a crocodile actually jumped up and tried to bite the elephant's tail. I didn't take the photo, but the guest that I was guiding actually took a photo. Okay, let me see if I can go forward for you now, Seb, because they're just a bit further away from the road. I think I remember showing some of you that years ago, though. And then, there we go, it's a little bit better, sorry, now that they've moved just a bit further in. She doesn't look happy though, she's coming out, okay. It's okay, girl. And then there's a famous video of a crocodile launching out and grabbing hold of an elephant's trunk. I don't actually know where that was filmed. But, so crocs I think could be a problem, especially for the younger elephants too. And then hyenas when they're young. Occasionally you'll see elephants with missing tails. That could be from crocs, from hyenas, you name it. So they do have predators, but size really does matter when you're out in the bush. And in terms of being the kings of the savannah, elephants are definitely up there rather than the lions that have been deemed with that title. It's okay, little one. Very precious though. I can actually hear the bushwalk. There's quite a few students that are doing their backup trails, their apprentice trails, as the name is now changed. And I can actually hear their voices rumbling in the area. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move out of here and allow them to come in and get an encounter.
Well done, Taylor, for allowing students to learn and better themselves as guides. Unfortunately, the wild dog chaos went completely chaotic. I think what happened is the two packs found each other, because since then, dogs have run everywhere, and there's just calling from every corner of Djuma. But most of the calling now is going all the way south. It sounds like deep into Hofmans already. We just could not keep up with them. We also got a flat tire, which didn't help things. But there's dogs calling in every direction, basically. So I think when we saw that pack run, those puppies, and then we heard all that commotion, I think that was the other pack had joined, and it basically led to a complete disruption of all these dogs. Because when dogs hunt, this is not how they do things. They don't run like this and call while they're hunting, and they stay pretty tight-knit. This is a kind of panic call where none of them can figure out where the other ones are. What's that in the road behind us? Looks like a hyena, I think. Yes, hyena that's coming down the road towards us, so we'll just wait for it to make its way. It's a limpy hyena. I don't know which hyenas have got limps at the moment. I haven't spent any time with these guys for a while. But it is one that you can see has got a slight limp coming down the road. The way that they run is that rocking motion, but let's see where this hyena goes. Don't you love that little head? bouncing. It's just funny the way that head is bouncing on the other side. Oof. Just waiting to see if the others respond. There's another 4 of them, 3 that I can see coming. Shame, girl, is that foot sore? You can see how it's holding up its foot at the moment. Not pleasant at all. Must be very painful if it's holding its foot up. Shame. Here come the rest. Can hear dogs calling again. Definitely south of us, not on Djuma anymore, unfortunately. I think the hyenas are much like us, are stopping and listening, trying to pick up the sound of the dogs. Just got to follow the hyenas. They will lead us there. I can hear some dogs coming closer. Okay. It's all the moms that we've got with us at the moment. You can see they're getting riled up. Look at the tails. Tails are always an indication on hyenas when they're getting excited by something. They turn those tails up. And they're heading straight where I can hear the dogs calling. And there's definitely one dog that's coming closer again. You hear their little grumbles and groans. Kelly, they start scent marking pretty early on, within the first sort of 2 months already, particularly if they're from the matriarch's lineage. Then you see them pasting around the den already at 2 months old. They kind of go over grasses and you just see them kind of leaving these little pastings on the grass. It's not so easy with spotted hyenas to see. Brown hyenas, you leave a much clearer scent or sign. You can see it quite easily, but with spotted, it's not as prominent. But you see, these hyenas are also confused. I think they're hearing dogs calling all over the place as well, and that's why they're also stopping and listening. Much like us, they're trying to work out where everything is and why there's so much commotion taking place. But definitely there was a dog calling very close to where we are, or not very close, but close enough that it sounded like it was coming back onto Djuma. And they're heading in that direction. So we're going to follow them. Sometimes hyenas are the best way to find other predators. Following them can often lead you to things, particularly when you've got the 3 big adults from the den, the three big girls, and they kind of on a little mission. I'm just trying to listen to the radio because there's so many people trying to find the dogs and are trying to listen out that I just want to make sure that I don't miss if they do find them. Alright, so I believe that Aubrey has found one dog on Vuyatel Access, but that's not the dog we heard calling. We heard another dog calling from this side. say, I think they're in the same boat as us, is that there's just so much calling around them that they're actually trying to locate the main part of the pack as well. But when you see this is typical of wild dog packs meeting, is a huge splinter, dogs go in all directions, and then they start calling, trying to figure out who's who, trying to get everybody back into the same place. I think Treehouse Dam is going to be our best bet, just to head back that way. Problem is the dogs are running so much that they're covering ground faster than we can. But the hyenas are all heading back that way. All right, we'll stick with these guys and see where they take us. Hopefully a dog will come running out here somewhere and we'll be able to follow it and kind of see what happens, and the pack will all come back together again.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. Now, what I'm going to do here is I found a spot where the wind has kind of blown these alates, these termite alates, and I'm going to sit and listen, see if we can't find some birds that come and start feeding and calling. Not sure how easy it is for you to see, but there was a cuckoo that was flying around and feeding on these alates. Very well spotted by BK. It's kind of just flown to the other side. I didn't get a good enough view to see whether it was a Jacobin cuckoo or a Levalens cuckoo. I'm going to keep going, see if we can't find any more hotspots with these alates and any other interesting animals that might be feeding on them or anything else around.
That, everybody, is an elephant's trunk. It's from a big elephant bull. It actually looks so strange. And he's got an exceptionally long trunk, which he is just dangling on the floor. It looks like a caterpillar, hey? When you turn a caterpillar over on the underside of the trunk. He's been quite funny. I actually have to watch him because he's a rather big bull. He's not a young fella at all. And he's been fine. And then there was a cow and calf that was on their own. They were like a little satellite party that had separated from the main breeding herd. And as soon as she came around with that youngster, he obviously started acting quite hoity and then started throwing his weight around. So we're just watching him, but we've come to an agreement now. We've had a nice chat. He's been smelling the ground, but I don't want him to come any closer than he already is, because he is big. He's about the size of Kumo. Hey boy. You can see he's still smelling us. He was definitely exhibiting some displacement behavior. So where they pretend that they're doing things, but they're actually focusing us. RJ, now you've asked about the purpose of the hairs on the trunk. Well, I think inside the trunk it maybe would be similar to how we, even as humans, have hair inside our nostrils, so to stop so much dust and debris going up there. And then around the outside of the trunk, I would imagine that they must have some kind of purpose, almost like whiskers do on a cat or a dog. I can't imagine that that wouldn't be the case, but I'm not really sure. I'm just not thumb sucking, but I'm just making an educated guess. But I can't say that I've really read much about the bristles around an elephant's trunk, especially on the outside. But I would think that has something to do with it. How's that? That elephant bull is not maybe 15 meters away from us now. Like I said, I just wanted to have a nice, calm interaction with him. Which we managed to do, but he's just almost invisible. You can just only really see him when he starts to flap his ears, and he's not behind much vegetation. You really do have to have your wits about you, especially when you are on a bushwalk, on an area like Pridelands. You have to make sure that you literally check behind every single tree. But it's quite difficult to see him now. I think we'll carry on up ahead and see what else we can find. Just all the elephants have now moved on off into this thicket. I don't know if there are any more roads sort of running parallel with him. Yeah, big boy, I'm just watching him again because now he's stopped and he's looking at us. Here he comes. No, we finished this conversation. We'll just stop again. Big boy, relax. Seems like I'm going to have another conversation with this elephant, but before Dan's birds fly away, off you go. And big boy, no, we've already spoken about this.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. Good luck with the conversation with the elephant, Taylor. What we've got here is a few Swainson's spur fowls. And there's 3 of them in total. I'm going to try and get BK to stick on 1 for now because they're running around quite frantically and they're catching all of these alates, and they are in fact feeding on them. It's quite entertaining to watch, particularly because these spur fowls are mostly ground-dwelling birds, and as you can see, they are running around on the ground. They're trying to catch them before they get off and fly. Oh. And sometimes you'll even see them jumping up to catch them out of the air. It's quite funny. How's the red face on the Swainson spur fowl? Key way to ID them is from that red face. They're kind of running around in circles, zigzags, just trying to pick the right route. You can see a few of them flying around there. Let's try to pick another. Swainson spur fowl, which is a bit closer to us here. Oh, got one on the ground. Out the air. Starlight, how long do these eruptions last? So, it's only a short window, maybe a couple of weeks in the year that they last, but each mound might only last a few hours, and it's critical that they erupt in as many as they can, and there's about a statistic of about 2 to 5% of them will only make it to successfully creating another colony. So these few weeks where the weather conditions are right, with lots of rain and moisture and heat particularly, is the only time that they really come around. Some people can find it a bit frustrating because you'll be driving and there are literally thousands of other things flying into your face, flying into your eyes. BK was saying he's glad he wears spectacles this morning because they're flying into your eyes, flying into your mouth. And it's an incredibly important food source. From the smallest birds, these Swainson spur fowls, squirrels as well will eat them, jackals. It's fascinating. Everything. Oops. Sorry about that. But very entertaining. On the ground here particularly, these Swainson spur fowls are very lucky as well that they've got this hunting ground to themselves this morning. You normally find them being interrupted by all sorts of bird species, and often bigger bird species that may in fact try and target these spur fowls. Like maybe a big eagle. And running around quite like this, it is quite open. Even a snake this time of the year, like maybe a python, be hiding in the grass waiting for an unsuspecting spur fowl to come past so it can grab it. It's quite funny how they walk. Their head gets left behind and then they do a little jog and a trot, catch a few termites. So I'm going to see if some other eagles and other things don't come and join these spur fowls, but in the meantime I'm going to send you to Trishala with her wild dogs.
just as we thought. We came up to quarantine, and the wild dogs are around here. Tristan is around here somewhere too, so he might take over. But I've only got the pups, and they're very, very vocal, and one adult. Actually, I think this will just be one segment with me and the dogs, and then I'm going to hand it over to Tristan, because there's a whole lot of vehicles that we're helping find them, and I just happen to be in the right place at the right time. All right. Trist. They're now moving towards Rebecca's Road. It's such a main area. That people are actually just using the road and happening to see them. Tristan. I've just had the puppies and one adult, and they're now moving east towards Rebecca's.
All right, copy.
Okay.
Seems to me.
Okay. Now we're going to swing around. Oh. There's a hyena to just say hello. Following the wild dogs as well. All right, I'm going to send you over to Taylor and her elephant while we try and find the wild dogs again.
So we were planning on leaving, obviously, but then our friend, the big elephant bull, came back out onto the road, and now he's causing a roadblock. I think he's kind of doing it to us on purpose, but as soon as we get a gap when he does move out of our way, we are going to carry on. There we go. Now he's going down the road, so we shall tempt fate once more. So my whole thing, again, this is my personal opinion, is that when you allow animals to come and stand right over the top of your cars, when something goes wrong, you're at fault. You know, obviously, again, there's certain situations that where you couldn't move, but everyone will just turn around and say, why did you let that elephant get so close to your car? And there's no real way to get around that situation. So I always prefer to give them space. Obviously, there's times where the little ones maybe come up and are quite curious, but like a big elephant bull like this, hey boy, no, we've had this whole discussion. I've been trying, hey, like for me there, all I did is he keeps coming into my personal space too, and there needs to be a boundary between both of us. We have to be able to coexist together. Now, all I'm actually trying to do is leave this area, but I can't go backwards because the breeding herd of elephants were behind us and then one of the roads have been closed. So we're now finally at a four-way stop where he can go his way and I'm actually going to go right and do a loop down towards Buffelshoek Hook. But literally every time I move the car, he is unimpressed by us and he wants to come over and intimidate us, which I don't want to do. I don't want him to learn that he can also win this battle. So he doesn't listen to me when I talk to him. So when he comes at me like that, literally all I did there was just rev the engine just a little bit, and he responds perfectly well to that. And I switch the car off, and now you can see he goes into this like Zen state where he completely relaxes, and he, like you see now, he's kicking the sand. You can have a dust bath now. Well, not that it's really dust, because we've had so much rain. So. And quite interesting, but he's an old, mature bull. He's not a young fella looking for trouble. There was a couple of bulls that looked like they were coming into must, and there has been one elephant bull, Dex. We know him. He has a collar. He's collared by elephants alive, and they follow his movements. He is actually in must at the moment. And this bull, you can see, is secreting from his temporal glands there, just to the left. But this typically shows an overstimulation of adrenaline, which can mean a number of different things. So it could mean that he is coming into must. It could mean that he's had a fight with another elephant, and now he's slightly stressed about it. It could show that there are some serious environmental conditions, like when there's a drought, you'll often see a lot of elephants secreting from there. It can show excitement, and it can show lots of different things. It's hard to tell. We obviously talk about when elephant bulls come into must, they start dribbling urine, and they dribble a fair amount of liters every single day, and there's normally a staining between the back legs. So he isn't in must. It's not to say that he's not maybe coming into must, but like I said, I'd like to leave, but I can't leave with him coming back and, chasing me away, if that makes sense. So we both need to just leave nicely. When he does something that I don't like, and I do something that he doesn't like, we have a conversation about it. And you can see he's very relaxed now, how he has his trunk on the ground. So we've come to an understanding. That's been an interesting conversation with this bull. But off we go to Dan. Dan has joined the party now. He's gone from ants to elephants.
Yeah, Taylor, I couldn't resist but join the party here. Luckily for us, we've managed to find an incredibly large elephant bull. There's a smaller one that's moving around in the back, but I'm going to stick with this big one for now. And look at the size of his tusks. I'm hoping he comes a little bit clearer into the open just to show us his size. He is immense. And huge head, huge tusks. He might even be one of the emerging tuskers in the Kruger National Park, which is fantastic to see these genes still moving around. And have a look at what he's doing. You see how he's got his trunk right down in the grass, feeding off of that. And he'll be targeting the softer grass at this time of the year. It's much softer on his teeth, and he looks like he's quite an old elephant as well. You look towards the top of his head, can you see those indentations? Almost like where your human's temple would be. He's quite an old elephant. I would maybe guess at around between 40 and 45 years old. And in his prime, in fact. He doesn't seem to be in must either, which is when their testosterone levels increase. And that'll cause them to kind of look for mating opportunities with herds. It also tends to put them in a bit of a bad mood, for an easy way of explaining. But it's quite amazing. Right in front of us, we kind of came around the corner. We're looking for birds with these alate eruptions, and all of a sudden there's this beautiful big elephant bull seeming to be very, very, very calm. And we're going to keep our distance as well. I mean, we're probably around 30 meters away from him at the moment, and he seems to be very calm and relaxed. Very calm, not showing any kinds of signs that we are even here, which is great. That's what we're kind of looking for. We're not here to disturb him in any way. Maybe he's going to move a little bit more into the open. Look how he just pushes through that tree, looking for the softer grass that might not even be getting any kind of sun, being protected by the shade of that tree during the hot days. And you'll see by targeting the softer grass, being softer on his teeth, it'll actually allow him to live quite a bit longer. They have 6 sets of teeth throughout their lives, and this big old male might even be on his last set of teeth. So by eating the softer grass and softer vegetation, he gives himself the best chance at living a longer time. You'll see elephants in captivity do tend to live quite a bit longer than the ones in the wild, simply because they get fed much softer material. And you see the other elephant in the background coming through. You see he's quite a bit smaller than this one in the front. And you'll see when male elephants get chased away from the herd at a young age, normally around 14 years old or so, they will kind of be wandering on their own, trying to actually join up with bigger elephants like this, almost to try and learn how to behave in in a way. He's coming towards us slowly. I'm going to just reverse a little bit. I don't want to be in his path. So let's see if I can give him a bit of space. And then I'm going to send you to Tristan and his hyena while we try and give this elephant a bit of space and see if he won't walk past us.
While Dan deals with big Ellies, we've got 2 hyenas that's, well, have decided to give up, much like we have. We'll leave Trish with the dogs this morning. So instead we're going to sit with these 2 that you can see are in the process of greeting one another. Now they've gone quiet, of course, but they were talking to one another, greeting one another, sniffing genitals. I think they've decided to give up on the wild dog chase and head back towards the den itself. So we can follow them up there. Let's just quickly turn so we can get up the dam wall. But those dogs just covered so much ground, and like I say, with Trish being there already, it's pointless for us to go back in that area. I think we can just leave her with it. As long as somebody's got eyes on the dogs, that's always kind of what you want. But it still makes me think that there was 2 different packs. The dispersal and calling incessantly like that is not the way that they hunt. Adults generally will run, and if they catch something, there's a little bit of calling and everyone comes together and feeds. But you could see even by the body language of the hyenas that they too were just very, very, very confused as to what was going on. And the only time I've ever seen that kind of behavior with dogs is when they've either been separated by a predator, so something like lions is running and everyone's bombshelled, or when they've had interactions with other packs, and then you find that there's kind of this dispersal that takes place, and then slowly but surely everybody kind of recognizes each other's voices, and then they come back together in a tight-knit group and form the pack again. So I think that's what's taken place. Obviously it was tricky because a lot of what happened was just off sound, but when we were sitting with them right in the beginning, they basically started, there was a growling sound, which is often the sound that they make if they see a predator, and then all of a sudden everyone just ran and in different directions. So I suspect that was the case. Maybe there was a leopard in there, I don't know. Who knows? We didn't see enough to really have 100% kind of conviction of what we're saying. All right, we'll just check if these hyenas have gone to the den and they've disappeared on us. Hopefully they'll be here somewhere.
My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, I think Dan is enjoying his morning with that Ellie, that's for sure. I'm quite jealous, actually. I haven't seen enough Ellies lately. It's been super quiet on the Ellie front, but it's quite typical for this time of the year. We always go through this lull in our Ellie sightings as the just before the marulas start to drop in February. We often get a lot less Ellies, particularly when it's been a fair amount of rain. Then you find that we don't have that many around. Right, where to from here? I'm not quite sure. I think that the hyenas ran off. I don't know where they went to, so it seems like nothing wants to be a part of our morning safari. They all just want to run away from us, which is fine. We'll go and find something else and try again. I don't actually know where to even begin. I had tracks for a male leopard where the dogs were on Torchwood, so maybe I'll head in that direction and go and follow up on those tracks and see if maybe I suspect it's Tingana that might be moving around there, given where he was last seen. So I might check there. But so many cars have driven so many places now following these dogs that any sign of tracks are going to be obliterated by now. I don't think we'll pick up footprints that easily, but let's try. Let's see what we can get. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll find something. Right, in the meantime though, let's send you across to Trish with the very dogs now that they've settled down a bit.
Luckily, we've managed to catch up with them again. Tristan was kind enough to let me go ahead with them. Often with wild dogs, it's about who's closer because they move so quickly. Luckily, they've settled down now. They're in the southwestern corner of Djuma, near Impala Plains, which is a really nice open area, but there are no impalas, but it definitely is a plain. Always a great arena to watch wild dogs hunting, where it's nice and open. For now, though, everyone is resting. It's getting hot. The sun is beating down. Luckily, there's enough clouds in the sky to give them intermittent relief from the sun, from the heat. And maybe that could mean that they're going to hunt. But it looks to me like they're settling down for the day. They may move a little bit in those periods, though. Dr. Octobone, you'd like to know if wild dog packs are nomadic? I think what you mean is, do they have territories or do they not have territories? They don't have territories, they have home ranges. So they have massive ranges that they use as their home. But it's not a territory. A territory is an area that's defended against like species or the same sex. They don't defend their territories against other packs. They all just have large expanses of ranges. And I know you asked about being nomadic, but essentially nomadic means that you are roaming in a non-distinct area, which they kind of are. Doesn't matter whether home ranges overlap or anything like that. They're very, very close to the western boundary, and quite close to the southern boundary too. So often you just see them passing through Djuma. But every now and then we get very lucky and we get to sit with them for a long time. Ian, you'd like to know how you can tell that if one is a male or female? Obviously, they're very, very similar, but the male has a very, very obvious male genitals. Very, very, very obvious ones. That is the simplest way to tell any animal apart, unless they've got hidden testes and things like that. To tell sexes apart, that's the easiest way. There's other, like, size differences and things like that, but it's not as definitive as male sex organs and the lack thereof. So that's always the first thing that you look for, because it's also the most accurate way. The Woodland Kingfishers are going crazy, offering quite a show. You've got sound and sights. I can still hear one calling in the distance. I wonder if one got separated. That was so wonderful to hear them in this cacophony of wild dog vocalizations as well as hyena vocalizations. It was really quite an enchanting morning. In fact, here comes a hyena as well. So much going on, guys. So much going on. In fact, there's even more going on at Wild Earth. Lots of exciting new things. So won't you pop up over to our website, wildearth.tv/explorers. See how you can become a Wild Earth explorer and what it's all about. She's waiting for them to do something, see if she can get a meal. Zulu, you'd like to know why don't the wild dogs chase this hyena away? Only because they don't feel like right now. Because they will always go after her. They always go after hyenas in general. And just because they're not going after Hart doesn't mean that they can't or they're scared of her. They just don't feel like right now. They often do. It's hot. She's not bothering them. There's no food to fight over. So there's no... They just need to, they'll expend extra energy trying to chase her away. They don't want to do that. Hyenas have a great way of approaching other predators. And also giving them the side eye as if they don't know them, like an opposite side eye, looking in the opposite direction, and just walking towards them as if I don't know what you think I'm doing here, but I'm just walking by. They do that a lot. He looks very nonchalant as they walk through. But it's obviously a good strategy for them. Now she's found a nice patch of shade. Just going to wait in that patch of shade. Oof. There's already a lineup. It's a busy time of the year now, especially it's going to get busier. So our time at sightings will become less and less as we create a rotation for other vehicles to get into sightings. I just need to keep tabs, if you don't mind, on whether I need to get out or not. So I'm just going to keep it a little bit loud so you might hear unfamiliar voices. Oh, black-headed oriole, and they're moving. Let's see if we can catch up with them.
Okay, we're about watching the tracks are eating
Tracks. Everyone's lying down now. There we go. Which stations are coming to the wild dog sighting? That's now in Bellanites. Well, that's nice that no one's answered. Great. Either that or they'll just come through. Oh, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So this is a really great position because the open plains are behind us and they have a great view of those open plains. The open plains are behind us and they have a great view of them, so if some impala come through, they'll be able to get a meal, although I don't think it's warming up a bit too much for that. Tanya, you'd like to know how many pups they can have in a lifetime? You know, they can have about even up to 20 pups in a litter. Imagine that every year for, let's just call it 10 years. And there's a lot of pups. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna have to manage the sighting very quickly. Can you take over, please? Thank you. Oh, there we go. Now I don't have to manage the sighting anymore. Yeah, so that's a lot of pups. So if you imagine that we have a female that lives for 10 years. It can be anything from 6 to 12 years. A female that lives for 10 years has 20 puppies. And she can essentially give birth to a 20 puppy litter every year. But only when she's mature. So it'll usually be it's anywhere between 1.5 to 3 years. Let's say 7 years of 20 puppies. And that's just one female. But of course it's not, 20 puppies is not the usual amount. It's, a 10 is probably more average. But still anything from 70 to 140 puppies. There's a lot in a lifetime. But still, if it didn't work for them, then they wouldn't be doing it. Just gorgeous. So we're going to spend as long as we can with them. Enjoy the sun while they enjoy the shade. Phew.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, what we have here is an African spoonball, and I've just come and stopped at a watering hole. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just keep quiet and see if we can listen to all sorts and have a look at some of the birds that are around here. Quite cute, those little Egyptian goose babies or goslings. Lots of them still, 2, 4, 6, 8 of them. And that's an incredibly easy food for certain predators, maybe a crocodile that might be lurking in this water, maybe a bird of prey. It's quite amazing the sounds that you can hear when you stop and look. Those are the little babies, the spoonballs. I'm going to keep going, seeing what else we can find.
Not much has changed. I still stay up in the shade, and it's definitely going to remain that way for the rest of the morning. Because even I've taken my jacket off. That says a lot, because I like the heat, and I hate even the slightest bit of being cold. They all just got spooked by their own pack member. Oh, it's quite cute. Well, the sighting is quite busy now, and there is a lineup, so we're going to have to leave very soon. Like as soon as the segment is done, and we'll make space for others. And one thing a wild animal doesn't like, it doesn't matter how big and brave it is, what species it is, but to be surprised by something, your own kind, by a bird or a tortoise or something like that, you just You don't expect to see something moving or something to be there, and then suddenly something's there. You can get the greatest shock. It's very entertaining for us to watch. Johnny, you'd like to know how wild dog packs are formed? So what will generally happen is there's an alpha male and alpha female. There's also a beta female. Beta female can also reproduce, and then the alpha female will generally take over from the cubs from the beta female and kind of rear them as her own. So then you have a whole lot of pups, right? Usually the males will stick around and the females will disperse, but males will also disperse, but females are more likely to disperse. So you'll get a large female cohort of the puppies that will disperse, and then a smaller cohort of the males that will disperse. So those female puppies, that cohort, between a year and a half to 3, they'll go and find some males that are a breakaway pack, and they'll join up with them. Then they form a pack, and then they'll basically vie for the position of alpha female, and then that's how a entire pack is formed. And then they will mate, and then the process begins again and again and again. But quite often males will stay in their pack, and if males are staying in their pack, then that means that there are many packs that have lots of males in them. So that cohort of females that disperse, they will join another pack where the pack's females have dispersed. And then it goes on and on and on like that. And that's how the various packs form. Awesome. All right, well, like I said, I'm going to make some space for people. So I'm going to send you over to Dan at the dam.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, I'm still here at this watering hole, and I'm watching these 2 African spoonballs. Look at the one on the left. Can you see the shape of its bill? Kind of like flat and elongated, looking just like a spoon. Can you see that shape? Can you see it also moving up and down quite quickly? Looks like it's doing more preening at the moment, but you'll see when it pops its head into the water, just like that, moving left to right, now walking, trying to find another spot. You can see the water's quite shallow. Oh, caught something. So when it does pop its bill into the water, it's looking mostly for small fish or even some invertebrates, like moving left to right, scanning and feeling more than anything. And if it does feel something kind of swim past, it'll gobble it up. There we go, left to right, into the mud. If a small fish does swim past or it finds something hiding in the mud, it'll try and pick it up. It's quite an unusual shape, but uniquely designed for this kind of behavior. Very shallow, this watering hole. We actually need quite a lot more rain here to fill it up. Look at the Egyptian goose swimming by. Wonder if the little babies aren't going to follow shortly. It's quite a good little spot for all sorts of water birds, waders. There was a common green shank that was around here earlier. Being so shallow as well, the chances of a crocodile sneaking up on them is quite low. In fact, there are a few of the babies, the little goslings. Now, Egyptian geese there's lots of little babies there, goslings, and it seems like most of them have actually survived. Lay eggs on land underneath a tree or a bush, and they can lay up to about 11 eggs, if I'm not mistaken. Anywhere between 5 and 11. With all of them hatching, hopefully a few of them will have a chance at surviving. You see how all of them are huddled together as well. You see, Mom and Dad aren't too far away either, keeping an ever watchful eye on them. I mean, Egyptian goose is probably one of the most widespread birds, I reckon. and this is a bit of a guess, but in almost every watering hole from London down to Cape Town, you might find Egyptian geese. Incredibly well-adapted bird to surviving and kind of taking over these areas in parks and even in these wilderness areas. They can be quite bullish as well. You'll see if another bird tries to sneak a bit closer towards its little chicks, or even around the watering hole and the Egyptian goose doesn't like it, it'll chase it away quite aggressively. Even when they fight with one another, they can be incredibly aggressive. The little goslings are kind of just following the parents around. And the goslings are quite cute and fuzzy. I agree with you. They are very cute and very fuzzy. I mean, there'll be lots of people who might disagree with an Egyptian goose being so cute because they can make quite a loud noise, and particularly if it's outside your window in the mornings when you're trying to sleep. Some people might disagree with you, but I agree. Those little ones particularly are very cute and fluffy. And with mom and dad keeping such a good eye, or a close eye on them as well, they've got a really good chance at surviving. Quite a few swallows that are coming down to drink in this watering hole as well. Quite tricky to pick up on the camera. But this kind of mud, I mean, you see how shallow it is. It's going to provide incredibly good feeding grounds for birds in the next few weeks or months. It seems to be too shallow at the moment for any hippos to come through, particularly when there's lots of water around. The hippos would prefer to choose a bigger watering hole. There's no crocodiles that I've seen in here so far, although I wouldn't, any watering hole in Africa though, I wouldn't say that there's no crocodiles, certainly, just because crocodiles do move, and they can move in the evenings, potentially come into a watering hole like this to try and take an Egyptian goose by surprise. No crocodile here today, you never know what's going to be in here tomorrow. Even with those geese that might end up on the banks, you'll see a crocodile will lay in wait. Oh, there it looks like our common green shack might have come back. It's a little bit tricky to see from here, but that bill, long and thin, slightly upcurved, quite big. Some people might get confused between this and maybe a wood sandpiper. I even saw a very special green sandpiper not so long ago, not in this watering hole, but the kind of dominance of white on the front. And I did have a good look at it earlier. It does have a slightly upcurved beak, telling me it's a common green shank. Also really enjoying the short or the shallow water and the muddy bottom where it will be feeding. Just kind of looking around. Amazing, look at that shadow as well, the reflection in the water. It's dead still, huh? Oh, there we go. It moves quite quickly, hey? Look how its head moves, bobs up and down. And it's amazing, when it puts its head down, the shadow actually meets. Keeping a good look out. I don't know if you can hear those Egyptian geese as well calling. But it is a super hot spot. I mean, particularly after a morning with all the alates that have been feeding around, the swallows are coming down to have a drink. You'll find a lot of the birds in and around this area would have been feeding this morning and had lots of food, excess food in fact. Come down to the watering hole, have a drink before they continue on their day. And I'm sure these alates for the rest of the day are going to be blown around by the wind, and there is going to be excess food around. I'm sure there'll be quite a few terrapins moving around in this water, a freshwater turtle essentially. And you'll see in the wintertime, this is a kind of watering hole, judging just by how shallow it is now, with lots of rain around, I'm sure this watering hole would dry up very, very quickly in the wintertime. So I'm probably going to keep going, seeing if we can find some bigger animals, but the birds this morning have really been on show. I'm going to send you to Charlotte with her wild dogs. I hope they manage to wake up shortly.
Oh, Dan, that would be a wonderful hope, but I'm so glad that you all had to see or got to see the African spoonballs. They're such a pleasure to watch. Our wild dogs are watching the plains intently, but nothing has come to eat just yet. Considering that to the west of me it's called Impala Plains, I really seldom see impalas there, especially down the southern part of it. There was one sneeze. That was about it. When they start to move, it's so important to be able to pick up cues, and when you think the animals will start to move. You know, with lions, they start to lick, groom, yawn. Those are indications that they're going to move. As well as urinating and defecating. Wild dogs, you'll hear sneezes. It's a cool kind of way that they'll vote in their movements. Tammy, you'd like to know how far wild dogs can hear? I wouldn't be able to tell you an exact distance, but you'd be able to hear, you as a human would be able to hear a wild dog calling, vocalizations at least 1 kilometer away, maybe even a little bit more on a good cold evening or cold morning. It's because sound travels further when the air is cool. But the actual dogs would be able to pick up their vocalizations farther than that because we have our limited hearing. Their hearing is much more developed. So they'll be able to hear each other kilometers away. If you think about it, these dogs were calling, and then the ones near Buffelshoek Dam were also calling. I couldn't hear them at that point, but that's maybe about 5-6 k's away as the crow flies. And they would have been able to pick that up. In fact, they did pick that up. Those large ears assist them so well because they're big and dish-like. We always liken them to satellite dishes. So that means they can concentrate and direct sound towards the inner ear where they can process it. Lots of sensory hairs along there as well that assist them with hearing very well. They pick up their heads every now and then when the sun is dampened just a bit by the clouds, but they're already quite snoozy. Heart is still lying down close by under a bit of shade herself, waiting for an opportunity to maybe get a bit of a snack. I did swing past the den again while we were looking for the dogs because they were in and around that general area and there was nobody around. That would make sense because if they heard the wild dogs, they'd want to move and kind of follow them, as you saw with Tristan. Like to follow them so that they can pick up a meal if possible. They look so comfortable. The puppies look so soft and furry, like you could just pet them. But of course, it's probably very coarse. Their hair, even though it looks very nice and soft, just like an impala looks like their fur is very soft, but in fact it is quite coarse if you touch one. Almost bristle-like. Gorgeous. Very, very, very nice. They seem to be only interested in chasing flies at the moment, and not impalas. That makes sense. I'll send you over to Tristan. He's got some insects for you, and I'm sure he's also chasing away some flies.
Well, not right now, luckily. We do have insects, but these guys are not flying insects at this stage, so we're all okay. I'm not actually 100% sure. Well, I've seen these before, but I can't remember the name, and I know I have been given the name before, so some of you out there will be very clever and provide it for me again, but I can't remember for the life of me what they called it. But you can see the row of eggs basically underneath. I'll put my finger there so you can get a sort of size scale. That's the size of them. So you see the row of eggs underneath, and then on top sits all the little red insects. And they're very, very small still. I mean, you could see the size of my finger in comparison to them. The reason why I stopped initially is because I saw the white, and then obviously the red contrasts quite heavily. At this time of the year, you can often find moth eggs or butterfly eggs on various little plants, but this is not going to be a host plant for this particular species. This is a dead branch that's just lying, and it's been dead for a long, long time. So it's not like they're going to be able to get too much nutrition out of this. So again, like I say, it wouldn't be a host plant for them. This is just an opportunistic place that they've found that is allowing them to build this string of eggs as it goes along. And these little red insects have come out. I keep thinking that they might be part of the cotton stainer family, which is kind of where I was going with it, but I could be wrong. Like I say, I have seen them before, and they are in this area often. And like I said, they're fairly common through the summer months. Megan, you say funky looking, and they are pretty cool looking things, aren't they? The insect world is amazing to me because you get these brightly colored individuals that are all over the place, from these guys to those red velvet mites to rainbow beetles to the jewel beetles. There's all kinds of crazy colored different sort of things out here, and that's why sometimes it's good to just slow down and not worry too much about the bigger things, but also take a look at the smaller stuff, because there is a lot of beauty in the smaller things of this world. The insects, I know a lot of people aren't fans of insects, but actually when you stop and look at them, they do have the most incredible colorations and diversity in terms of their body structures and all kinds of other things like that. So I always enjoy looking at insects. I find them fascinating. I also find it fascinating that we can often find insects that we've never seen before, just when we look a little bit closer and take a little bit of time to explore the insect world, particularly now when we get a lot of storms and we get changes in temperatures and rainfall. Often that can trigger new insects to be around, the ones that you've maybe never noticed before because the numbers weren't huge, but the conditions are exactly right for an explosion of that particular insect. So I always find stopping for them is worthwhile. And it's pretty in its own right, isn't it? This kind of, like I say, white string of eggs, and then these sort of red insects contrasting that on this grey branch. There's a bit of beauty in that on its own. You can actually see the tops of the eggs where they've kind of emerged, are now flapping in the breeze a little bit with a bit of wind that's picked up. So these little eggs are opening up and the caps are coming off. It looks like most of them have hatched. If I look underneath, pretty much all of them seem to have the caps removed. Mango lover, do I have a favorite insect? I have a few that I really enjoy. I love the flower mantids. I find them fascinating to watch. They're cool little creatures. I enjoy those rainbow beetles. They, just from a color point of view, are unbelievable. And then dung beetles are always a firm favorite because they're just fun to watch. It's pretty much organized chaos when dung beetles find fresh dung, particularly at the height of their production or their egg-laying sort of season. I enjoy them a lot. So I'd probably say those kind of three would be my top three. I do enjoy butterflies as well. So that's always a good thing to look out for. The butterflies so far haven't been great. I haven't seen too many of them yet this summer. But they should be coming around now. A lot of them probably would have started to breed now, and you would find the caterpillars are developing and they're going to go through that phase where they'll eventually emerge as adult butterflies. There's a few monarchs milling about and brown-veined whites, but we haven't seen too many of the African vagrants yet, or any of the browns or blues, so waiting for them to come through. So yeah, I think those would probably be some of my favorites. I find them generally, the more brightly colored and kind of weird looking they are, the better. Spiders obviously are not part of the insect order, but they're also pretty cool little creatures to look at, particularly the Salticidae family. So all the jumping spiders, I enjoy spending time with them too. They fascinate me. And then the golden orb webs, as much as they scare people because of their size and their bright colors, I find them also beautiful just from their web point of view. So particularly early in the mornings when you come out, and if you get golden light and there's been a bit of rain the night before, you get these beautiful bright golden webs that are massive with these kind of dotted little droplets all over them that looks like strings of pearls. And then if it's backlit with some golden light, that whole web shines, and then you get these kind of little silvery balls of light in the form of raindrops contrasted against that gold background with this massive black and yellow spider in the middle. It's pretty out here. I always like it. I know a lot of people won't, but I think it's a kind of beautiful thing to see. Also fascinating to see how they construct those webs as well. All right, we're going to leave our little insects to, well, do what they're doing, which is taking it easy. I feel like they've taken a leaf out of the wild dog's little kind of page or book that they've decided to write right now with Trishal, and taking a bit of a nap.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effect down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the number one aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name attached to her, so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag, which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Right, so we've left our insects. We're just bumbling slowly inside the Mulawati. There was tracks for a male leopard that came from Torch side into kind of along Central. So if he was going to cut through, it would be somewhere here. Whether it's Mulawati or Tingana, I'm not sure. So I just wanted to check up through the Mulawati just to see if he didn't go towards here. Whether it's Mulawati or Tingana, I'm not sure. So I just wanted to check up through the Mulawati just to see if he didn't go towards these little pans that are on top here. There's a series of little pans that is quite popular with a lot of the cats. It's quite kind of shady around there. There's a beautiful little tambueti thicket, a few jackalberries, and a nice little mud wallow, so that can provide some easy drinking. Often they like to hang around in this area. Oh, look, there is not a cat, but a very interesting looking creature. So we're looking at all the brightly colored stuff. Do you see the gama on the tree there, the trunk of the jackalberry? There's a tree agama, which is one of our more brightly colored lizards that we get in this part of the world. You'll notice it's got a bright blue head. There we go. You can see it kind of on the right side of the tree. Most of the body is quite well camouflaged, and then this blue head gives them away. And that blue head is often an indication that these guys are trying to attract the attention of a mate, of a female, in order to tell them that they are big and strong and ready for mating. Quite a common lizard that we see out here, or gama. They're pretty much all over the place. If you actually just take the time to look, you generally can find these guys in one of these big trees along a riverbed like this. They really are fond of any tree that's got some semblance of size and little places that they can hide. So if there's a little hole in the tree or something like that, then they are generally very happy on that tree. And they don't live only on the tree. You will see them on the ground, especially if there's food items available. So things like termites. When we get termite hatches, you often find these guys down kind of cleaning up those winged allets when they drop and the wings fall off. And they often are kind of moving about and eating them and taking advantage of that. But a lot of their time is spent like this, is just sitting on the side of a tree, absorbing some sunshine. And that's just to get the body going after yesterday's cold weather and rain. And this morning it was quite a chilly start to the morning. I'm sure some sunshine will be welcome just to get that body temperature up. And that allows them to be far more active and go in search of the various food items that I'm sure will emerge this afternoon. With this kind of heat after the rain, you often get a little spike in insects that come out, and I'm sure they'll take advantage of that. Amazing coloration though, isn't it? That blue head is almost electric blue. I wonder if it's the one agama that we used to see a lot. It's a little bit far north. There used to be a pair of them that we were seeing regularly, almost daily at one point. But we're a long way kind of north of those guys. But you never know. Maybe they've decided to move up this way and form a life down there. Where are you going? All right. Right, so I don't know what's going on, but anyway, we are still with our lizard. You can see it's moved down a little bit into the sunshine just to be able to absorb some heat. As I was saying to you, this will be the start of them getting active and starting to kind of warm up for the morning. Often you'll find they run from like a little shady spot to a sunny spot, warm up there for a bit, and then back into the shady spot when they get a little bit too hot. I was trying to see if there's maybe any sign of a female agama. She lacks that blue head, and so it can be really tricky to see, but I don't see any movement or anything like that, so I think it's just the boy for now. You might be wondering how they stay up there. Well, they've got quite sharp little claws, and those claws dig into the bark, and it allows them to basically just hang on the side of these trees. A lot of the trees that they inhabit are quite rough barked, so things like jackalberries and marulas and knobthorns and the likes all have bark that's quite easily gripped. It's not a very smooth tree, it's not too difficult for them just to kind of use those claws in order to grip them onto the tree. But what you did see there is that it's turned around. So often when they're just resting and sunning themselves, they don't like to face downwards. Imagine they'd eventually get a head rush, so they turn around and kind of face upwards, and that's a lot more comfortable for them than facing down. Awesome though. All right, let's leave him to himself. We'll go see what else we can find. Nice to see. He's got a nice little home, doesn't he? You'll see that he's got this beautiful big jackalberry on the banks of the Mulawati. It's like the $1 Million Lane. If you're a lizard, I feel like this would be a place that you would have to invest a lot of money in to be able to stay at. This is an area where you've got to always check very, very carefully. There's a lot of shady little spots. Tandi, Tlalamba, Tingana, Mulawati all use this, and they lie in random places along here. It's not like there's one place where they all like to sit. A lot of them just lie in odd spots. You find them kind of like tucked in under a tree sometimes, so you've got to always pay attention when you're driving through here. There's some beautiful little shady areas that are perfect little spots for not just leopards, but multiple different animals to sit. Often find duikers sleeping in here, nyala, giraffe enjoy it in here as well, ellies. So I like the Mulawati meander. That's what I nicknamed this. Used to be Hosanna's highway, this particular road. He used to love walking along here. All right, we're going to negotiate this little tip. In the meantime, though, back to Trishala. I'm sure she's still with those sleeping dogs.
You negotiate away. I am now just having a look at any of the smaller life that's out and about. Those wasps that were around that pile of dung that I saw earlier looked like the spider hunting wasps, those really metallic, dark, black, bluey metallic wasps. Interesting that they were swarming around like that. So I've been thinking about other insects. There have been so few elephants around recently that we don't have those steaming hot piles of dung that we usually find, where they're teeming through so many different types of dung beetles all around, and I miss that. One of the things you don't think of, you think, oh, we just haven't seen a lot of elephants. But if we don't see a lot of elephants, it means that we don't see a lot of dung beetles, which is a shame. We've been seeing lots of little rhinoceros beetles around camp, all over the place. Rhinoceros beetles galore. And like tiny, tiny ones that their little horn is just like a pinhead. Like a tiny little thing. They look so, so cute. I'm quite happy with this morning. This afternoon will be much of the same in terms of wanting to go to the den and see if we'll catch a glimpse of June's little one. I think I'm going to see if those snakes are out. Those western yellow-bellied sand snakes. I say snakes because there are two of them. Do you remember we found the one in that little dry, hollowed-out trunk of a tree that's lying flat? We found one. And then the other day when I came past, there were two in there. So let's see if we can find them, especially now that it's nice and sunny and warm. Maybe they'll be out basking. MJ, you'd like to know how long have I been a guide? For 2.5 years. That's how long I've been a guide. My career with animals didn't start with guiding. I went to university. Well, I mean, I loved animals when I was little. Always had. And then I went to university and I studied biological sciences and environmental sciences. And then some other stuff on sustainability and things like that. Thought maybe one day I'll work in government legislature from climate change and stuff like that. And then I decided, no, I don't want to do that. I actually really, really love being outdoors and like being with the animals. And then after working in research for some time, then I started to take my guiding courses. Never thought I'd be a guide. I'm glad that I have had that experience. All right, we're almost at the snake. Snakey snake. Are you home? I believe you have to sing to it for it to come out. Just in that little hole there. Are you all singing? I hope you are. Oh, snakey snake, put out your head. Woodland Kingfisher screeching above me. Maybe our snakes have gone out. Maybe there's somebody. Let's just check if there's another hole they could have popped out of. No. Oh. It's a mongoose and squirrel. No, squirrel was just passing by. I thought it was actually going to interact with the mongoose. That would have been the cutest little things playing together. Oh, love dwarf mongoose. So while everything else, all the other carnivores are lying up in some shade, trying to keep cool, dwarf mongoose, the smallest carnivores we get here, in the order Carnivora, this is their time to shine. They like it when it's nice and hot, not when it's cold. Jamie, you'd like to know what is my favorite sighting in Djuma? You know, these questions are such difficult ones to answer. I always tell you about the first time that I saw Kara, Shidulu's cub. She climbed up the tree just a couple weeks old. That was epic. And that was like within my first 6 months of being here, so it was very special. I've had some incredible elephant sightings. Really, really incredible elephant sightings. In fact, I've been very lucky with them. think the time the elephant flicked its trunk and threw water on me was a fun time too. So many. I can think of when spiders, I'd see live kills with spiders. It was also really cool things. It's so hard to pick. So hard to pick. All our friends have run away. Let's take a drive to Gallagher Pan. It's right around the corner. Yeah, I think elephant sightings is probably the best when I, come back from drive and talk about today I did this, today I did that. I was so excited about this or that. Elephant sightings always at the top of my list. Whenever I speak to my parents, I was telling them, today this elephant did this and this elephant did that. And my others always get very concerned, as parents do, but my dad is always very excited. Oh, and there was also that sighting that unfortunately I couldn't share with you live because of how down and in the drainage it was, and that was of Kalamba with his scrub hair that she just insisted on playing with. Of course, it was torturous for the scrub hair. It was very sad, but to watch that girl be such a clown was so reminiscent of Hosanna. And I've had countless excellent sightings with Hosanna. Still my favorite leopard, even though we don't see him anymore. I'm sure the same goes for all of you. You might be wondering why you're watching the sky. That's because I'm a little bit out of sync, so I might look like a badly dubbed movie if you had to look at my mouth, but at least you get a good view of the clouds and the wonderful trees. I think first-time sightings are always very special because it's the first time you see a certain animal or you see a certain type of behavior, and for that, there's firsts all over. I'm almost at Gallagher Pan, and now I'm going to send you over to Tristan, who has a bird and who has a face, unlike me.
Well, we've got a whole bunch of vultures, which I'm just watching just to see where they're going, because there was reports of a herd of buffalo seen this morning north of kind of Gallagher Pan area. And one of them was injured. So I was just watching these vultures just to see if they were going down or if they're just riding thermals going up. But they're going upwards. They're not going down at all. They're all kind of just catching a thermal here and there and slowly riding it higher and higher into the sky in order to go and find food. Yesterday there wouldn't have been many thermals with that kind of cold, overcast, wet weather. So today is a much better day for being able to ride thermals. So these are all white-backed vultures that we've got flying here. So there's 4 total. There was 5 initially. I can see 4 now. And they look like they're just climbing higher and higher and higher. And I wonder if they're going to drift sort of northwards, because I also heard that there was more vultures to the north inside Manyeleti. So maybe they're heading there. Now I can see all 5 again. They're kind of crisscrossing with one another at this stage. Beautiful though, isn't it, with the clouds and the blue sky. I think it's ominous signs though. These clouds are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And earlier when we were in the Mulawati, I heard all the foamless tree frogs calling. And foamless tree frogs don't call unless rain is on its way. Just before rain comes, they start to call, and that attracts all of the males to the females, and they then are able to breed over little mudwallers. So they're pretty pretty good indicators of when rain is coming. So I wouldn't be surprised we're going to end up with a thunderstorm this afternoon. Maybe there'll be some rain on the horizon, which is not ideal. We had enough of the rain yesterday. I was quite looking forward to a dry summer's day, but it's more typical and more in line with what we generally see as these big fluffy clouds that build into storms by the afternoon. That would be something that is quite common in the summer months. Well done, Gert. Very nice. Like I say, pretty watching these birds flying in amongst the clouds. It makes you kind of want to do it yourself. Now, we are not far from where Trishala is. We're a little bit further to the north of her, and there's a reason why I've come here. This is an old two-track that we're on at the moment that takes us to an old hyena den. And I know that June was carrying that cub, but I just wanted to come and check if she was using this one, because this one, ever since I've worked here, since 2000 and end of 2016, beginning of 2017, this hasn't been active. This has been a kind of area where hyenas used to use but haven't used since then. So I just want to double check to see if there's any sign of them using it again, because if there is, then it's worthwhile to take note next time as we get the next set of hyena cubs, that they are actually still using this area. The game path looks pretty well trodden, so we'll just double check as we go along. Come on. And see, if it has been used, I don't expect there to be any hyenas right now, but if it has been used, we'll see clear evidence of the mound being used, and tracks going up and down and excavation a little bit and wearing of the mound. So I just want to double check it and see. We know that Intima potentially could be having little ones as well, and so it's possible that she might be using this one if that is the case. All right, while I get there, let's send you across to Trishala, who's at Gallagher Pan. I think she's doing a bit of birding there.
I hope he's looking for Intima to see if she has cubs. Just cub crazy at the moment. Such a special thing. Such a special thing. Here we have the usual residents. -1 at Gallagher Pan. We have the blacksmith lapwings, Egyptian geese, but no Cape turtle dove. How could it be? This pan always draws the usual suspects. But every now and then there's a leopard drinking here, some elephants, all those exciting things. I remember once there being wild dogs drinking here too. While I was just training, just happened to be sitting here chatting, just wild dogs come through, start drinking at the pan. That was amazing. But for now, we've just got these two couples. It's a very peaceful scene, though. The Egyptian geese are having a bit of breakfast in the form of some grass, like grass and seeds. No little ones for them. I love seeing little birds, so it'll always be fun to see them. I can hear grasshoppers. Ooh, I love that when grasshoppers go click, 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 as they escape through the grass. And they also do a flash of color as they do that, flash coloration. Can you hear that? Tick, 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 tick. That's for a defense mechanism. So if a bird or something like that catches sight of them, sees the grasshopper, and the grasshopper runs away and spreads its wings because they're flying grasshoppers. Then you get a flash of color. Usually it's red or yellow or orange underneath their wings, and then they go tick, 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 tick. And it becomes a distraction because as soon as they land, the color is lost and the sound is lost, and then the predator is lost also. I like to spend some time watching some dragonflies too. Down at Calico Pan. I enjoy watching Egyptian geese sometimes, regardless of how common they are. Sometimes rude. I really enjoy watching them because they've got a lot of character. Something about them that just feels like an old married couple. They still take walks together and do everything together, but they will shout at each other and constantly bicker. It's very, very cute, actually. All right, let me send you back over to Tristan and his search for Intima.
Well, you can see this is the den that I was talking about. So it's one of the most beautiful dens that we have on Djuma in terms of the hyenas. It's got this nice little Tamboti grove coming out of it, and then this big mound with these two entrances to it that makes for a pretty grand kind of place. But it's definitely being used. I suspect maybe by June. Could be warthogs, but you can see how well worn the entrances to this mound are. Even after the rain, there's been movement in and out of this particular den, and I haven't gotten out to go and check tracks just in case there is another hyena that maybe has little ones here. You never know. But you can see how smooth the edges are there. If it was not being used with all the rain that we've had, you would find that it would have a very textured look to it. It wouldn't have that nice smooth entrance that you see there. That's from animals lying regularly in the same place that gives it that shine. And so I'm pretty sure that this is where she was keeping that cub. From here, if she takes a straight line and walks south, she goes right past the dam camera and towards where the den is, where all the others are. So it's good to know that she's used this. It means that the clan might use it again. I'm pretty sure if we went up there and actually looked at the tracks, there would be hyena tracks, but I don't want to disturb it in case, like I say, maybe Intima or, another hyena is potentially wanting to use this or is already using it. You don't know. So I just wanted to come and double check that there's signs of it being used, and there most certainly is. The last time I was at this den, it didn't look like this at all. It was very, very, very rough. There was a lot of kind of debris at the entrances, whereas now it's been cleaned out. It looks pretty smooth from all angles. Both holes look like there's indication of movement in and out. Now at a den this size, you can find sometimes that there'll be multiple species sharing a den. So you might have hyenas in the one hole and even sometimes warthogs in the other. It's an uncommon occurrence, but it does happen. But you also find porcupines, you can find aardvarks living in these things, you can find a lot of snakes, mongoose. So even though there's sometimes a predator like a hyena around, you will find other animals making use if they're not using one side of the mound. And because it's so large, there can be different little chambers inside there that others can use, which is pretty crazy. I've even seen swallows nesting inside of a hyena den before. So the hyenas would lie there and the swallows would fly in and out above their head, and obviously their nest was on the roof of the entrance, just inside. So they'd fly in and kind of go under a lip, and they would sit in there and then come back out again. And it drove these poor little hyena cubs absolutely mad because they would constantly try and nip at these swallows, which, of course, they were way, 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 way too slow for. The swallows would just kind of be too agile and go in and out and drive them through the roof. But if you wanted a den site, this would be it. This is as good as it gets. It's one of the most beautiful little spots. I think if I was going to have a den, I would want this one.
I'm so glad, Tristan, to know that if you'd have your den, it would be there. I'd like my den to be the Mfupu Road den or the Shibama Road den. Well, we stuck around here so that we can listen to some of the beautiful sounds and have a bit of a moment of silence. Those really are some wonderful sounds. I'm glad to spend these moments with you all so we can appreciate the sounds of the bush.
Well, we've left the den area. There's obviously not much to look at other than a den, and it kind of confirmed our suspicions, so that was all we really wanted to do there. Was just to see if that's where it had been used, because there were two options for June and where she had been and whether or not she had come from here. The other option would have been Gallagher's shortcut den, but if she had been there, I would have expected her route to be straight down Quarantine, down Philemon's. That would be a much more direct route than coming this way. It almost had to be this particular den that she was using, because literally, like I say, it is as straight a line as possible. There's in fact a game path that runs from there all the way to the dam. So she would have just walked on that game path the whole way with carrying that little one. I wonder if there was just the one or if there was two or how it all worked, but definitely only one that we've confirmed. So maybe there's another one that she'll fetch today. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. I'm sad a little bit though that they're not still using that den, because it's so beautiful there. It's, like I said, one of those kind of got nice atmosphere, put it that way. I mean, the dens where they are now are nice because they're a lot more open, and so probably from a filming perspective, it's a little bit easier to film at those dens. But this one's just got character. It's got shade and it's big, and I don't know. There's just something about it that makes it an ideal den in my. Anyhow, I hope one day we get dogs den over there. That would be nice. Can you imagine a dog den on Juma? That would be very, very pleasant. Although I'm not sure the cars would be very happy about a dog den on Juma. Following them is an absolute nightmare. Like I said, this morning we already got a flat from following them, a flat tire. So, the cars take a bit of a pounding when the dogs are around. So I don't think they would be too happy to have a den. The nice thing with dens, though, is that every day you get a slightly different kind of trajectory that they take. And Quarantine, if they den there, would be such a great place to see them every day hunting. Is that a red-backed shrike? Certainly looks like one. You see on that dead tree there, Gert? There's a bird sitting. I haven't seen a red-backed shrike yet. Well, actually, no, I did. I saw one yesterday, which I was very excited about. I love red-backed shrikes. They're very, very cool birds, and it's a migratory bird that often is overlooked. It's not one that people generally enjoy. it's not a redback, is it? Yes, it is a redback shrike. Now that I've got my binos on, it most certainly is. And I really like them, and not because of what they look like and the fact that they're a migratory bird, but it's because of how far they migrate. I find it fascinating that these redback shrikes can fly as far as they do. They come out of Russia all the way to South Africa, which is pretty crazy. I always enjoy seeing them there. I think they are a testament to birds and their endurance that they show when they travel these massive distances to get to a place in order to feed or to follow the rains and get out of the cold. I think it's crazy when you really think about the size of that bird and the distance that it covers and the terrain that it has to get through and all of the predators and everything else just to get to us. Madness, really. But nice to see them. Really cool. Like I say, yesterday I saw a female, so nice to see a male today. All right, we're slowly bumbling home. It's that time of the day, so we're going to send you across to Trishala.
I had Birchall starlings for you, I promise. They walked away. I also had some guinea fowl for you. They walked away. Oh, guinea fowl's back. Oh, guinea fowl, where did you go? There's a spotted thickney. Very well hidden spotted thickney. A little to the right. More. Oh! Everyone is very well hidden today, aren't they? It's behind that bush. I think I can move just a tad, and we'll be able to see it. Ta-da! It is equally hidden as it was before. You can see its yellow legs, though. Look at that. You see the legs of a spotted thickney. Looks quite strange, doesn't it? I think interesting is a more appropriate word. This is a very odd part of Djuma that I don't visit often, but it's behind Gallagher Pan to the north, and it's kind of like on top of the drainage, and you get to listen to some awesome sounds, see some great birds here. It's a lovely place to walk if we get a chance to. So I thought, let's just come here, since we're looking at lovely birds for the end of show. That's the Birchall starlings. It's been such a great drive this morning, so much of excitement with the wild dogs, potential to see June's cub, having them at the den and spending some good time at the den. That was wonderful. This afternoon, I'm sure Tristan and I will go looking yet again. Maybe he can go looking for Intima. Maybe she's in a den. I'll go check for June. And then, of course, I know Tristan, he'll want to find a leopard, and then I'll want to find a leopard too. So it's just going to be a whole host of excitement this evening. Well, thank you. It's that time of day when I've got to say goodbye, and thank you for your questions and your comments. But we will see you this afternoon. Have a good one.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.